Hey everybody, and welcome back to another layout update for the GMRC VTR build. I've got quite a few projects that I've completed over the last month or two, so I figured it was time to go ahead and show you those. Before I do, I just wanted to talk about a post I made the other day about Rocky Valley. For those of you who didn't see the post, I've gone ahead and sold Rocky Valley, and I did this for two reasons. One, I needed the space in the basement, and two, I was sort of losing interest on that project. With the Green Mountain Railroad build, this one is more true to my heart than the other build was. And I had made that one for an apartment that we lived in a couple years ago. And now with having more space, I was finally able to build the layout that I've always wanted. So I figured it was time to go ahead and sell Rocky Valley. Alright, now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at what I've been working on. So I've got all my rolling stock consolidated to this one module here. I mean, this thing is just packed full. I didn't really have any other place to put these. Unfortunately, I don't have any shelving yet for any of my rolling stock, which is a little frustrating. I need to go ahead and build something or buy something. I really didn't feel like putting these all in the boxes, but I had to get them out of the way because the other three modules have had quite a bit of activity over the last month or so. It's probably a little hard to see this detail with the lights, but I've gone ahead and I've weathered all of the track, or painted and weathered all of the track on the Chester module. You can see it's kind of got a darker tint to it. And basically, I've gone ahead and painted on a base coat of brown, I think it was nutmeg color, brown acrylic paint that I got at, I can't remember if it was Michael's Arts and Crafts or Walmart. They're pretty much the same thing, the same kind of paint. I went ahead and put a base coat on the tracks, and then I actually covered this with a soot black weathering powder from Monroe Models. So here is the brand that I use, Monroe Models Weathering Powder Soot Black. It's a self-adhering pigment, and this stuff is fantastic. I actually used this on the truss bridge as well, and I highly recommend it. You can see that I've been continuing the painting and the weathering along the main line up until the bridge portion here, and actually past that. The bridge still isn't in place. I need to finish weathering it and doing a little bit of detail work. You can also see I've been doing some work on the riverbed, and I'll talk about that shortly. First, I want to show you what I've been doing with the Bellas Falls yard and the painting and weathering going on there. And here you can see I've done the same thing. This was the base coat of nutmeg brown acrylic paint, and then a covering of the soot black Monroe Models weathering powder on top. Now, I had attempted in the past on previous layouts to do the acrylic paint as a base, and I was a little hesitant to do it with this layout, but it actually turned out really well. So I had started using the paint pens by Woodland Scenics, the rusty rail and weathered tie, and I've gone ahead and put acrylic paint on top of that because the coverage just wasn't great. There was a lot of spots. You could see the track or the rail, the nickel silver, shining through, and I just didn't like that. So I originally covered it with a light coating of acrylic paint. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, I should probably go ahead and just make sure that every spot is covered adequately and there's no shining coming through. So by that point, all of the paint pen paint itself had been covered up, and I did the rest of the track using just the acrylic paint with the weathering powder on top, and I think it turned out really well. This is very time consuming, obviously, but if you've got the time or the desire, I highly recommend it. It's a very cheap way to go ahead and paint your track. Buy a large bottle of the acrylic paint, and it'll last you quite a while. So you'll have to excuse the mess here. Still working on things, obviously, but I wanted to show you what I've been working on for the riverbed. So basically, I've gone ahead and I've taken plaster of Paris and carved rocks along the edges of the riverbank and towards the end where it meets the backdrop. Once this dried, or I should say as it was drying, I carved the rock formations with a hobby knife, and then when it dried fully, I etched in those sharper details for the rock work. I then went ahead and applied a base coat of acrylic paint, I think it was a slate gray acrylic paint, and then I went ahead and put a brown wash, the same nutmeg brown, a very, very light diluted wash with water on top to let that soak in. I then went ahead and applied a wash of Black India ink. And finally, I went ahead and dry brushed on an antique white paint, acrylic paint, for the highlights on the rocks that you might get, I think, from sunlight and that sort of thing. You can see I've also painted the bottom of the riverbed black. And then I've gone ahead and you can see that olive green there towards the backdrop. This is to sort of show the transition between the shallower areas to the deeper areas. And I'm hoping that once the water, whichever brand of that realistic water I go with, I'm hoping that with those colors it'll show a good transition to the deeper water. Lastly, I've gone ahead and I've used AK Terrain's concrete. And if you're not familiar with this brand, this is what it looks like here. Sorry for the glare. This is the first time I've ever used any of the AK series products, but I really, really love this concrete. It's so realistic and it's very easy to apply and it just looks phenomenal. I'm definitely going to keep using it on other parts of the layout, and I'm even considering purchasing more of their products for other areas as well. Here's a little bit of a close-up of the rock work. It might have been hard to see with that last clip with the light above. You can see the highlights, you can see a little bit of the browns mixed in, the gray beneath it. This is a technique that I got from Ron's Trains and Things. It's a fantastic technique. I've used it on previous layouts. I still haven't mastered it. I feel like I need to improve the rock work a little bit, but it's not bad. So I've continued work on the stone arch bridge between the North Walpole and the Bellows Falls modules. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the prototype, this stone arch bridge is actually pretty big. I would say it can hold 4 to 6 pieces of rolling stock on it in real life. And of course mine can only hold about 1. But due to space constraints, I had to sort of consolidate the size of this. So I decided to go ahead and just model a smaller stone arch bridge over a creek, or this is actually a portion of the canal system, but I decided to go ahead and just model a smaller portion. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of foam and I've carved it accordingly to fit into the space. I did a little too much carving, it's a little too small, but I'm going to have to go ahead and fill that in with some plaster or something. But then I went ahead and I carved the bricks, or the stonework rather, into the foam itself using a hobby knife. Lastly, I used a small bamboo skewer to go ahead and push in some of these individual rocks so that there was different depths to them, to sort of give a more 3D element to this bridge. So when you're looking at it, it's not just smooth, but there's more shape to it, there's more character to it. This is something I've never done before. This is a new technique to me, but so far it's turning out great. Tried to zoom in here a little bit more so you could see some of the stonework. Again, with the lights, I wasn't sure what you could see and what you couldn't. So hopefully you can see this here, a little bit more of that 3D aspect that I was talking about. Some of those stones are popping out a little bit more, and I'm hoping that this is going to add some character to it, especially after painting and weathering. I'm hoping that will really pop. This technique is new to me. I'd never attempted it before, but I've seen it plenty of times. And I think I got the idea from Trackside Scenery, their series of videos. They had been working on a similar stonework project. I can't quite remember, but so far it's turning out great and I'm loving the results. So the last thing I wanted to show you for today's update is these 2 GMRC locomotives that I had picked up. I made a post, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago about these, showing when I had purchased them. I haven't done any work on them yet. They do need a few things. They are DC and they do run great, but I want to obviously go ahead and make them DCC and add some sound. But I also need to go ahead and do some body work to them. I don't know if you can see, but if you just take a look here, there's a missing handrail there. And actually, I'll bring this model closer so we can take a look. You can see the damaged handrails, and there's actually a few spots like that on both models that are going to need to be fixed. I need to go ahead and find a set of GP9 handrails. I'm sure I can find some on eBay, but I've never replaced them. I've never done any body work to locomotives before. So that's another new project. But for now, these 2 locomotives are just going to sit on the side. I want to go ahead and finish up some of the track work and all that. I still need to finish one more module, that being the North Walpole module, and then my track work will be complete. And I can move on to perhaps some more scenery aspects of the layout. So up next on the layout is going to be installing the remainder of these KV models joint bars here. See if I can get this apart. I don't have very many left. These are the 4-bolt, so these are for the yard. I've got a different variation of the 4-bolt. These are the mainline ones here, and then this one is the other yard 4-bolt joint bars. I don't have very many left, and I'm hoping that this is going to last for all of this main line here, and then perhaps some of the spurs on this north wall pole module. But I'm going to go ahead and do that next on the layout. And once that's done, it'll be a simple coat of acrylic paint followed by the soot black weathering powder, and then I can move on to other aspects of the layout. So that's all I have for you in this layout update. I appreciate you taking the time to watch as always. Please comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.